Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel Learn to Code with New. So in my last video we discussed about type declaration and variable types, in which I went over three types. One was string, the other was number, and the third one was boolean. Today we will discuss about two of the other types in TypeScript, which are null and undefined. So today we will go through two of the variable types. So basically, if I define a variable a, right, I can define a variable a type as string, but there is other type which is null. So in the same way, I can define a variable b as string, but I can also define a type of variable b as undefined. So what that actually means? So let us just see, if I actually assign a value to variable a. For example, if I am assigning a variable value 5, so you can see there is a error over here. So if I hover over this, so it basically says a is declared but its value is not read. But if you see, the next thing is type 5 is not assignable to null. So what that means is, if a is of type null, then you can't assign a string value in there. If it is of a type null, then either you don't put any value in that, and the other thing is you can put a null value in this. So, and the same goes with undefined. So if you have a b of type undefined, right, and if you are putting a value null in there, that is all good, because you can actually assign a value of null to a variable of type undefined. So let's see what happens if I assign a value 5. You can't do that. So this basically means it's saying type 5 is not assignable to type undefined. So you can't do that. The only value you can assign to it is null. So this is in short what is null type and undefined type. But now if you look closely, to be honest, like this, there is no need of defining a separate type like of null or undefined, because in this null type you can only assign one value, which is null, and in undefined type you can only assign one value, which is null, right? Now that's why in TypeScript we really don't define types as null or undefined. What we do is, what TypeScript does is, it has like, if you can define a string type, but the string type can have null or undefined in it. So what I mean by that is, you can have let a string and you can assign a value null to it, and you can also assign a value undefined to it. Well, I mean, undefined, if you are assigning a value undefined, it actually doesn't mean anything, but I am just giving you an example that you can have a variable which is of type string and you can assign a null value to it. And the same goes with, for example, if you have a b variable and that is of type number, you can assign null to it. And if you have, let's say, one more variable c and it has of type boolean, you can also assign a null to it. So that is pretty straightforward, a bit confusing, but not that bad. So now I will walk you through what is what is actual difference between null and undefined. It is a bit confusing, but be patient. I will explain you that. So the difference between null and undefined is, so null is an assignable value. So for example, or you can say an assigned value. So what that means is you can actually assign a null value to a variable, which basically means non-existent or nothing. So let's see what I am actually saying. So for example, I will just log a value, console.log a, right? I will just clear my terminal. So I already have a watcher on, so I don't have to recompile my file. So if I run node main, now you will see a has a value of type null. So it means you can, null is a thing which you can assign to any variable, right? So, but you can't do it that with undefined. What I mean is, undefined means is if you have a variable which is declared and you have no value given to that variable. So for example, let a string. So now if you see, I haven't assigned any value to this variable a. So if I log the value of variable a right now, it will come undefined, right? So this is undefined, and you can't assign undefined because like this actually doesn't make any sense, or it actually doesn't mean anything, because if you are saying an a which of type string and you are saying it is undefined, like the value will not change, like it will still remain undefined. So technically this is basically this. So you can't assign an undefined value because that doesn't make any sense. So undefined is a variable, right, which has been declared, a variable which is declared, let a string, but we haven't defined it yet. Defined means we haven't assigned any value to it, right? So this is like a small difference between a null and undefined. And the other thing was, you can have the string and you can assign a value null to it, right? And you can have a string, but you can have a value of string as undefined right over here. So if I assign any value to the string, that value will be printed and undefined will be gone. So yeah, this is a small summary of two types, null and undefined. Alright, so now we are quickly jumping on to some other types, which are arrays and enums. So what is array? Array is basically a collection of values, right? So in JavaScript, you can have an array which can have both strings, numbers, boolean in one array. But in TypeScript, you can actually have an array of a single type. So for example, if you want to have an array A of only type string, then you can define it like this: string with two angle brackets, and you can initialize it with this. So now if you see, all the values are string, but if you try to add a value which is a number, it will complain about it. If you try to add a value which is a boolean, it will complain about it. So a type of, like a collection of values of same type. So string, and then I can have like number. Now this is of type number. Now everything is invalidated. It's complaining about everything, right? So I can only have array of all type numbers. And same goes with boolean too. So if I have an array of boolean, I can only have true, false. I can only have boolean values in it. So for example, if you want to have an array of different types, right, then you can have that, but they are of fixed size. So that is known as tuple or tuple. So how you can define a tuple? So you can define it like this. So for example, you can define a tuple which contains string and number. And now when you initialize it, you can have a value of string and a number. Now you can't like interchange the value, so you can't have like 6 first and string value after. You can have only in the same order as you have defined. So if you have defined string first, number after, then you can't have number and string. You can only have string and number in the same order. But for example, if you have this thing as a number and this thing as a string, then you can also change the order of parent string like this. Now you can, and now if you have defined number and string like 2, you can't have more than 2 over there. So for example, if you will add one more, this won't work. So to add one more, for example, of type number, you can do this. So now you have array of type this. So you can have a tuple which can have a value of type number, string and number. Now moving on to our next type, which is a enum. So enum is one of the things in TypeScript which is basically used to define a set of named constants. So for example, you can have enum of days, let's say days, and I can define set of days in it like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, right, and so on. So now I can have a variable called like days, which is of type capital D days, and I can assign a value. Now I can only assign a value from these only, Sunday, Monday and Tuesday. Now if, for example, if you want to assign a value of type string in here, you can't do that because days variable is of type of enum of days, which only knows about 3 values, Sunday, Monday and Tuesday. So you can only do days dot Monday, Sunday and Tuesday. So let's say you try Wednesday, there is no value called Wednesday in there. So in order to have this value, you have to define it over here and then you can get it from here. Alright, so this is enums. That's how you define enums and you can have values. So they are like basically used for defining a set of named constants, and it actually makes it easier for documentation purposes. Like in coding, you can define various cases or various conditions with the use of enum. So yeah, those are other 2 types, or I would say 3 types: array, tuple and enum. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, please don't forget to click on the like button. If you don't like this video, please mention why in the comment down below. Like, share and subscribe. Keep learning.